All right, we're going. Welcome to the second sort of episode of Vital Questions. I'm your host, Che Guerrero, with the co-host, La co-host.
La co-host.
Hello, how are you, La co-host?
Tired. How are you?
About the same. About the same. Since, we know since the election, everything just feels like it blurs into the same day.
Yeah, and it's funny we were talking about that because I was asking when was it that we recorded the first one, and we'll give a quick catch up as to what has happened on our end since then. But yeah, I for some reason thought we recorded before the election results, but yeah, go figure. It was like the first kind of ticking time bomb that went off of, hey, TikTok's random unnecessary message of we love Trump, right? So
I think in the first episode we said we shouldn't get bogged down with the shock and awe, and then we got bogged down with the shock and awe
thereafter.
Yeah,
because it was a lot.
It was a lot,
and it's still a lot. And yeah, and I mean, since we're on it, shock and awe. Actually, hold on, because we need to create structure for this.
We're just rolling. We're figuring out the format, right? What we're giving people,
right? Because we say shock and awe all the time. You actually taught me what that was, like that concept. So I'm not sure if it might be helpful to, like, as a quick, before we go explaining the change of, show name, the delay on that second episode, because it's been a while. Before we go into those topics, since you mentioned shock and awe, before we forget it, I feel like that concept has been in the news and in social media and all that. I have a feeling that a lot of people won't do what we're trying to encourage people to do and actually look things up, right? So I'm wondering whether that's a good kind of initial prompt.
Let's fire up the old search engine, which is what Vital Questions is all about, is firing up that search engine and answering those vital questions. So let's do that. There we go.
So shock. Let's do this. So if people don't know, if you put shock in quotes, right, that keeps it together as a phrase, and it'll search it together.
Quote, shock, and awe,
and
quote. So that way the search engine knows that you're looking just for specifically these words.
Right, exactly.
It's not like shocking videos of cats and amazing.
Exactly. It'll pull all of it, right? So then you end up with a million different results. So this at least helps you narrow it a little bit.
Okay.
Right. So shock and awe meaning. Right. Let's just go meaning. Cool. Is a military doctrine and strategy that involves using overwhelming force and firepower to quickly overwhelm an enemy and break their will to fight, aiming for rapid dominance. Cool. Let's go to dictionary.com, or we could do Wikipedia, Collins. Let's go to dictionary.com.
Okay. Dictionary.com. See, we're not just giving you these random words and being like using them all because they're in fashion.
Right.
That's what a lot of people do. They use those words just because they're in fashion.
Right.
Like in Vogue. I said that, it's in Vogue, and I don't really know what it means.
Do you know what it means now?
Is it about the magazine?
No.
It about...
Well, yes, it's alluding to the magazine, but that it's cool, that it's in fashion, it's in Vogue.
Yeah.
And of course it's French.
You know what? Sometimes I do when I don't know a word, like I remember.
It
No, this is what I used to do. I look it up now because I have a podcast where I gotta look stuff up. But remember that brand Eniche?
Oh,
yeah. The first time I saw it, I was just standing next to someone. I was like, some people pronounce that Enaisi. And the person goes, who the hell pronounced like that? It's Nietzsche. I was like, I know. I was just saying some people do because I didn't know how to pronounce it.
Enaisi?
So I said it wrong, but saying other people
on purpose.
Yeah.
That's so funny. As like the thing. That's so funny.
So what are we at? Dictionary.com. What is the shock and awe?
Shock and awe. So military, right? So we read what the military version is. The second kind of definition: an attempt to intimidate, defeat an opponent, or advance one's interests by an impressive show as of power and authority, bravado, risk-taking, etc. So yeah, I mean, what has been in the media and on social media, all forms of media, basically on this concept, is that this current administration is using the strategy of shock and awe to essentially either overwhelm, well, actually not either, and or so overwhelm and or cause everyone to just kind of disassociate with everything that's happening, right? And just be like, this is too much for my own mental sanity, for my own mental health. I need to I need to just take this at really high level. I can't get into the weeds of it. And while I get that, because I've admittedly been the same in the past as well, I've personally been on a recent journey of just kind of moving past that, because it's just so appalling, right? Like, and all the things that are happening are so terrifying. And if we don't educate ourselves and and keep in mind, that one, history repeats itself, and two, they're kind of banking on us disassociating. We just have to keep this in mind and really try to maintain a sense of calm during all this and keep ourselves informed, right, throughout the process.
Yeah, and by the way, this isn't just saying that they're using these tactics because, we are, associating these kinds of things with them. They've said that they're using this strategy. If you go back and you Google in the search engine, Steve Bannon talks shock and awe. So this is the video of the shock and awe and him talking about it. So let's give it a watch.
Depth and urgency. That's why you're seeing, and look, I strongly believe in the flood the zone theory, which is just overwhelm the opposition. They've already started to file impeachment documentation on President Trump in the House. Now, some of the wilder members in the Democratic House, but you see their mentality. Lawsuits are coming from everywhere. The resistance is there to overcome it. And I think President Trump has done an amazing thing, is you pick all the different verticals you're going to, and you just drop the hammer. It's executive orders, executive action, all of this.
All right. So that's essentially what he's trying to do. It's just, flood the zone, shock and awe, hit us with so much that we don't know how to respond accordingly because everybody's just, trying to play catch up.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's important for people to recognize that this is a tried and true strategy. I think it's very telling that this administration that ideally is supposed to be looking out for our best interests and taking care of us. Again, hold on. And then that's why I said ideally. Hello.
Ideally, right. Words matter.
Right. Ideally. Is it happening? No.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's very telling for a presidential administration to come in and essentially make it adamantly clear that this is what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right. And for red flags, alarm bells, all the things not be ringing in everyone's ears is actually a little surprising. Even just, again, if you didn't know what it was, just look it up, and now you do. And why is everyone talking about this? Right before this administration, I didn't know what shock and awe meant as a strategy. So it's pretty problematic.
And it's very sick that they're just, I mean, it's sick that they're doing it, but they're so emboldened, so blazing they just putting it in our faces. Hey, we're gonna do this to you. We're gonna put so much on your plate that you're gonna lose the will to fight, and we're gonna be able not to get everything across that we want, but we'll be able to hurt you.
Yeah, but
and get a lot of things done.
Yeah, exactly. And that's essentially what's been happening, right? So I guess before we keep going down the rabbit hole, should we take a step back and explain why are we vital questions?
It's funny because we're talking about this, and like it was actually, I thought it was a perfect transition into going to the shock and awe that we've experienced this week with the Alien Enemies Act and all that.
Oh yeah, the constitutional crisis. Yes, agreed.
So let's tease the fact that we're going to talk about that. Let's talk about why are we.
Originally we were Roots and Real. For episode 1, and if you listen, thanks for listening. Please subscribe and follow and do all the good things. Yes. But yeah, so originally we were Roots and Real, which we were big fans of the name. Wanted to keep it real, as they say, find the root issues of the things that we're kind of hearing about now. But we found that, especially given the current administration, given how things have developed in such a short amount of time, we want to make it clear what the purpose of this is, right? And it is to ask vital questions.
Yeah.
Right? It's to recognize the importance of questioning things. It's to recognize the importance of critical thinking.
Yeah.
And even if you don't know what are the right questions to ask, doesn't mean that they are not vital, right? Yeah. And especially in this, day and age, with everything that's happening, I think it's even more important to, question what you're hearing and seeing, and then also look things up for yourself and not just go with the grain of what you're hearing and seeing, not just believe things at face value.
Yeah. And I think, it's a great thing to give people permission to ask questions. Because I think as a kid, I don't know about you, but growing up asking why was like frowned upon.
Yeah, because the response was because I said so. Or you got a dirty look and to not ask the question.
How
dare you?
Those Dominican moms with them looks, like,
You know,
with the lip curls.
Mm-hmm.
The little lip curls.
Mm-hmm.
That was like, ooh, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
The more the lip went inside their mouth, and they looked like they ate like a warhead, and it went fully in, you know, like, I'm in trouble.
Yeah. You know you made a mistake. Things are going downhill quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the idea of our new title. You know, things obviously are moving quickly, and we figured we would as well, and try to rebrand as quickly as possible to make it clear what we're trying to do here. And in terms of the delay, I like being candid, and I think part of it for us was also the shock and awe of everything that was happening.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It was, you know, first weekend we thought of a million different things that episode 2 could be about.
Yeah.
And then got overwhelmed just with keeping up with the information, and then trying to create content for the regular social media, you know, platforms that you tend to do a little bit more regularly, right? Create content for. And then just obviously we still think this project is really important and wanted to turn back to it. But yeah, so that's a
and another thing too, it was you know, with the shock and awe of it all, it was we were like, at least on social media, you know, we were trying to keep up with the dropping news stories and the ever-changing landscape. And I come to realize that first of all, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, because having a slower paced way to get the news and to be able to talk about topics in a much more in-depth way was very important to me, because my videos were becoming 3-4 minutes long. And I realized that I still haven't been able to say everything I wanted to say in those 4 minutes, because this story is very complex. You know, the administration is doing listen, Trump is dumb, and what he's doing is easy, is he's hurting people, but he's trying to circumvent the law and trying to make the law like work for him when it's beneficial,
and straight out ignoring the law when it's not. And we'll get into that.
And you know, you're trying to, what's crazy is like, what are the norms now? And that's what's difficult, is to explain to people like, this isn't normal. I think they understand that, but it's also like, well, first of all, people don't want to go back to the status quo the way it was, that it was hurting people, but also we don't want this. So where do we go?
It went down the rabbit hole real quick.
Oh my gosh.
Well, honestly, I've been saying it for a while. I think it's just things aren't looking good, and it's all going down really quickly. And I think it's either some kind of pushback, and legitimate pushback, not, you know, for as much as I appreciate demonstrations and signs at congressional meetings and, you know, protests and all that stuff, they don't care, y'all. Like they don't care. And, you know, as AOC said it best, we need brawlers now, right? Like, and it's not, no, we're not advocating for physical violence. Don't go down that rabbit hole. Don't need that soundbite to mean that. No, in the metaphorical sense of like, stand up for things, right? Like, and don't vote in favor of anything this man is proposing if it's going to ultimately hurt people, where we know most things that's exactly what's coming out.
You know what? Let you know, we had this idea for stuff, but let's talk about something that I've been listening to a lot recently, and I just don't feel like people understand what it really means for different people. Let me just get to it. You know that fuck around and find out phrase, you know, like it's been used for Trump supporters a lot, like, oh, fuck around and find out. I don't know if it's gonna make sense, but fucking around and finding out is not created equally for all people.
Yeah, agreed.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Like the white dude who voted for Trump and his Peruvian, I believe, wife was picked up by ICE when they were coming back from Puerto Rico.
From their belated honeymoon.
Right? And in a recent interview, the man said, I do not regret voting for Trump. Even if mira. Gracias. Exactamundo. His wife is sitting in an ICE facility, because of the man he voted for, and he's still not repenting, still not being like, yo, maybe I made a mistake. He says he does not regret his vote for Trump.
And even though your wife is now detained and locked up because of it. Got it.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Not all fuck arounds and find out are created equally.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because she is sitting in the detention facility.
Right.
She can get deported.
Right. And she didn't even vote for him.
No.
She couldn't.
She couldn't.
Right.
And look, people are bringing up, oh, well, she deserves this because she was with someone who's a Trump supporter. She knew it. You know what I mean? So this is her fuck around and find out. I'm like, yeah, but again, not all fuck around and finds out are created equally. She's sitting in a detention facility and his fuck around and found out is he lost his wife, but he doesn't really seem to be too concerned because he's still not against Trump.
Right. I mean, she did kind of fuck around.
that's what I want. Latinos.
Because sorry, and yes, this is serious, and it's not to make light of it. And I'm so sorry for this one because I can't even imagine, right?
I wouldn't wish anybody to be sitting in an ICE facility,
right?
Except maybe Trump,
right? Not like she found out who this guy was, right? Like who he actually is as a person. Like this is so technically the phrase still stands. I get your point, but yeah. Anyways,
can you look it up real quick just to see hit the back real quick?
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the article. Where is this from?
Newsweek.
Yeah, of them saying that he does not regret his choice for president after his wife was arrested by ICE. Do you have the name again? Can we go down?
Of the guy?
Yeah.
Bradley Bartlett. Or Bartel, wow.
Bradley Bartel and his wife, Camila Munoz. And if you scroll up a little bit, you can see a picture of them. Sorry, scroll down. Yeah, there you go. You can see a picture of them.
First of all, it says, you a little too cute. You know what? Never mind.
Yo, okay. Can we talk about this? Because
she's so pretty.
She's so pretty. And here's the thing that kind of like, and maybe this is, okay, again, this is, I get to give some opinions. If you're looking at this is, again, I feel like it's a white dude fetishizing the fact that he has a Latina girlfriend. He has this immigrant girlfriend,
which again we're assuming,
but
we don't know. All right.
Okay. You know what? In my expertise, whenever I see a white boy with a woman who's a minority, it's usually a fetishization of that.
Fair.
And the fact that he is still being so callous about the fact that his wife is in an ICE facility, it just goes to show. I think it was how could you possibly be so nonchalant and still have the audacity to be like, no, I don't regret voting for him, and you're part of the problem, bro. But exactly.
Anyways,
so that's where I want, again, people of color who are aligning themselves with white supremacy. I'm gonna look right into the camera and say, not all fuck around and finds out that was all bad. I don't even know what. But we'll keep that in. That's not gonna be a cut. I'm not gonna write that. All fuck around and find out are not created equally. You will always find out a lot harder, a lot worse.
Yeah.
What the consequences are of aligning yourself with white supremacy than they will every single time. He is still walking around free with his goofy face, being like, I don't know why they took my wife. I don't even know. He's Wisconsin, but I made him all sound like, I don't know why they come after my wife. He
probably talks like hella regular.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I don't know. A is more like Canadians, but sometimes Minnesotans have that.
Got it.
You know what I mean? So I don't know what his accent would be like. I haven't heard him talk. I haven't heard him talk because I don't care to hear him talk because he has done interviews.
Right. Because clearly it's pointless conversation if you're still thinking that you did not make a mistake in your vote. But okay.
It's like, come on, por favor.
Right.
But so this is where I want people to like, this is why I want people to see this and realize like, you need to step away from this. It's nothing's good's gonna come from it for anyone eventually, but people of color especially gonna be the first ones to feel that.
Well, right, and that's the thing. We and we've talked about this before. I think we might have mentioned it on the first episode. This idea that people, it's this lack of empathy, right? That just kind of is at issue also throughout all these problems that are happening, because it is marginalized communities that is primarily affected. It is, people of color that are being primarily affected. It is people that unfortunately have not had the proper support in the past and continue to not have that support because they are marginalized communities and because it's not directly impacting the quote unquote general population yet. But maybe this is a good segue to what we wanted to talk about, this quote unquote constitutional crisis that's happening, right? Before we dive into the deportment of all of these people that were sent out against an explicit judge order. We'll get into that, but before we get into that, what we've been talking about also recently is a lot of the student activists and people that have been getting round up that are here on visas, that again have the right to freedom of speech, that again have not actually been supporting terrorist organizations, that have been only just supporting the people of Palestine and wanting to make sure that they're safe and, want innocent people to not be killed. Like, it's just as simple as that. Like, it's not. And we saw that rabbi earlier this week, give that impassioned speech, which props to him, and thank God that he is coming through with that energy and speaking for.
Can you pull it up for a second if you want to find the rabbi? So La Cojos came across this very passionate video of a rabbi sort of speaking in defense of the protesters and understanding, the pain that they're feeling.
Yeah.
Great. So we want to bring that up because I feel like it's I think it's the first one.
Cool. Yeah. So this is from Eye on Palestine, but this video has, I'm pretty sure, gone viral. Let's see.
Arrested because he's being accused of being against me, against Jewish people. That is not true. That is patently not true. He is pleading for the children that are lying on the streets of Gaza. He is pleading for God's creations. That's not anti-Semitism. My grandparents were killed in Auschwitz. My father escaped with the Nazis, came to Hungary. My father-in-law, all blessed memory, walked on the death march from Auschwitz. And a bunch of people came along in the time before Hitler. They came along in Europe. People who lost God and didn't have God's morals, and they decided to make a nationalist movement, and for convenience, they decided to make this in Palestine. And in order to stifle any dissent, they said, we are telling you we are Jews, and the ones who are opposing us is because they're anti-Semites. That is despicable. That is false. And I will not, and we will not relinquish our Jewish name and not the word anti-Semitism. We are pleading with you, President Trump. We are pleading with you, Congress. We are pleading with you, world leaders. We suffered enough. We suffered enough. Don't take that little identity of us and use it to perpetrate a murder against innocent people. It's unacceptable.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was.
I told you I was crying.
That was powerful. That was honest.
That was beautiful.
That is absolutely true. I feel for all people that are being hurt. And it has been warped into this by the right that if you stand up for the Palestinian people, it automatically means we're, anti-Semitic. That's not at all what that means. We are fighting for both of their freedoms because this is terrible to be happening at all.
And just to make it clear, there are which again are not in mainstream media. A lot of people don't talk about it, but there are protests happening in Israel.
Yeah.
From people that are Jewish against what's happening in Palestine.
And what's also even sicker is that the people that they're going after, like Mahmoud Khalil, who the rabbi was talking about, who was, a Columbia University student who had his green card revoked because of, his protest that he did on campus.
Right.
And they took it away at Columbia. He tried to actually stop one of the sit-ins and things like that they were doing. He was trying to negotiate the divestment of their school's funds to go towards Israeli military companies. And that's all he did. You know what I mean? And the Trump administration sent ICE agents to his house and first said, we're going to take away your visa. And then he's like, I'm not here on visa. I'm a green card. Like, well, we're going to take away your green card.
Right.
Because he was protesting for the Palestinian people.
What they thought was a regular visa, not a student visa, or a student visa, not a regular visa. And then they switched it up once they realized, oh, no, he doesn't even have that kind of visa.
Yeah.
Don't we see how they weren't actually going there for that.
No.
It had nothing to do with the visa.
No.
If you can easily go with, oh yeah, we'll grab that visa too. What?
Yeah.
Doesn't he have a right to know what he actually did wrong? It has nothing to do with the visa.
Protesting. And it's no, you're a little bit, you're a lawyer. You're a lawyer. And I know you're
I'm a different kind of
your
lawyer.
expertise might not fall into this.
Yeah.
But how does it work if a law comes into effect that could work retroactively like that? Like for example,
Mm-hmm.
Trump signed an executive order saying anybody protesting on college campuses for anti-Semitism. Again, I'm using air quotes because that's what they're labeling pro-Palestinian
And it's
protests.
not, right?
But once the law came into effect, they weren't protesting like that anymore
At the time, yeah.
So retroactively, this could ensnare people. Like laws could sort of be passed to ensnare people retroactively. I mean,
Typically not.
do you know what I mean? Like that's a little
Yeah.
That's a little weird. It's like, hey, we passed a law that says you can't blink more than 20 times a day. It's like, oh man, I've already been blinking more than 20 times a day. It's like, well, you're going to jail now because you've been blinking 20 times a day. You know what I mean? Like, so maybe it's a little too much.
Yeah.
But you understand my logic, right?
No, right, yeah. And generally speaking, I don't think so. But yeah, okay, so sorry, I just searched really quick because I don't want to speak out of turn.
Right.
I actually am not entirely
this
sure,
is
but
from-
I don't think so. Like they're not
This from the
supposed to be.
AI typing in the question: can executive orders be retroactively imposed?
A president can, okay, while executive orders generally don't retroactively impose new rules, a president can issue an order that modifies or rescinds prior executive orders, including those issued by previous administrations, and these changes can have retroactive effects.
Okay, you know what? There is true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, already we caught ourselves in a very easy, like the president can pass immigration reform that will be like, hey, if you got into the U.S. Anytime before 2014, those are laws that retroactively can help you because you've been in the country since, let's say, like 1990 or whatever.
Right.
So yeah. So but that's it's still a slippery slope when you do something like pass an executive order to protest, and that's where it becomes a little bit like, okay, now I'll be real with you guys, and I don't know if I'm sharing something way too personal here, but I've been to protests, against the anti-immigrant bills in Florida. I got pictures of me at a protest going no to SB 1718. Now could look at me, I'm incriminating myself by saying that. Should we cut this? Oh my gosh, we should cut this. Nope, this is staying in. But I'm saying,
well, no, you're not incriminating yourself because it is not a crime to protest. We have the right to protest. I understand that, but technically speaking, again, technicalities, which
Google, do we still have the right to protest? Because that's a vital question right now. Do we still have the right to protest
in the Constitution? Right. So, right to protest in the Constitution. Let's do.
Let's see. Let's read a little bit of this because I need to know what's my right.
So what's fun? I'd like to go to the source, but the source now is unfortunately not necessarily the best, right? So, First Amendment: Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, which we'll get back to as well, prohibiting the free exercise thereof, abridging freedom of speech or of the press. We'll get back to that as well, or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. To peaceably assemble, right? So from what we know, all those, I believe, right? Like all of those Columbia protests were peaceful. Like the students were not creating any kind of issues. I think there may have been some campus property that may have been affected, right?
See here, okay.
And I don't know. Again, I acknowledge my ignorance. I don't know. I haven't researched this enough to know what the details of those protests. I know that they occurred.
The issue is that we get a lot of the a lot of the reports that come out in the news and stuff like that are from the police side, right? So from what I saw, anytime that there was any kind of incident of disturbance or anything like that, it was the police coming in trying to push their way through, dismantle whatever encampment they had created or anything like that. So that's where they're like, oh well, you see how they created trouble. The cops came in indiscriminately arresting people. That's how Ranjani Srinivasan was caught up in you're on that tab over there.
Yeah.
Remember? Yeah. So Ranjani Srinivasan, I believe. She was a college student at Columbia as well. Srinivasan, who had to fled to Canada because they were coming after her for, and I'm using this very heavy air quotes, participating in protests, when her and her lawyers say that she was just coming home from in a night where they were doing protests near her apartment that she lives on and got caught up in the police coming and arresting people.
Yeah.
So that's why she was told by the U.S. consulate in India that they were going to revoke her visa. They did. And then what's even worse, and we're seeing a lot of what happened to her here on the CNN. So, this is where we got a lot of this information. We were jumping around different sources before. But they also, Kristi Noem tweeted about her. How are you going to do that? You're a government official tweeting about someone, saying that, oh, we got this girl to self-deport.
Yeah.
Using the home app.
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. See, this is it's the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, put on Twitter, which we'll never call it X. That is one of our core principles. We will never do that. If
we mistakenly do it, don't.
I think somebody said, if you ever hear me calling it X, just know it's a cry for help and come save me. But what is it? Because I can't see it from here.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's a post on Twitter from Kristi Noem saying, quote, "It is a privilege to be granted a visa to live and study in the United States of America. When you advocate for violence and terrorism, that privilege should be revoked and you should not be in this country. I'm glad to see one of Columbia University's terrorist sympathizers use the CBP home app to self-deport." And the image that we're seeing here, the video footage, it seems to be her getting through security at the airport. And that's how we somehow know that she use the CBP home app. I don't know. I don't know how
I don't even know how much I believe it. I think they just want to add tag on of quote unquote victory.
Yeah.
That not only did they get a quote unquote terrorist sympathizer to leave the country, but they also used the CBP One home app.
Right.
And this is according to Ranjani, this is how she found out really why they took away her visa, was this post.
Yeah.
Explaining that it's because they believe her to be a terrorist sympathizer. This should scare everyone.
Yeah.
Okay? They painted a picture
of what she was, because she wasn't part of the protest.
No.
And you guys can look this up. We saw that New York Times article. Feel free to look up your own source, but several sources confirmed that she was out at a picnic with friends the day that that part of Columbia was in a basically quote unquote takeover by students. She was not part of that. She was literally having a good old time at her picnic. Was walking back to her dorm. It was blocked because of all the people and police and everything. She was trying to get back to her dorm. Police started pushing everyone. She got rounded up in that group of people that they pushed and just arrested without question. And then she had 2 summonses that were asking her to appear at court.
Yeah.
She went to court. Her case was dismissed because it was very clear she was not part of anything. And then when her visa renewal came up, she didn't include that information in her visa renewal application because
they were dropped.
Yeah, exactly. She just assumed there wasn't an issue.
Yeah.
It was dropped. It was a mistake. She was caught up by a mistake. And then sure enough, she gets an email from the consulate, I believe, because she's Indian.
Yeah.
And she got an email stating that her visa was revoked. And with no clear information other than saying that information has come to light that suggests that she may not be eligible or may be ineligible for a visa. And then she calls Columbia up. Hey, Columbia, I just got this. Am I good? Columbia officials are like, hey, this is only an issue if you leave the country. So you're fine to stay here.
Oh, that's right. And then
your
ICE
studies.
came to her house.
ICE came to her house
the next day.
She ironically was on the phone again with Columbia people because she's trying to figure out.
So it's like, this is sort of the scariest part as well, is that, and by the way, if you happen to be an immigration lawyer who's listening to this, it's no hate to you. But people can't really give you information on how to keep yourself safe when this government is not
going off the rules. That's the thing. Like, people also need to recognize, I think that you've seen it in your comments. I know a lot of other people. I have attorney friends who are in immigration law. Shout out to y'all for doing the God's work. Yeah, I know that a lot of people are getting kind of stress from their clients or their viewers, where everyone's just like, all right, well, you're just telling us the bad news. Like, how do we fix this?
Yeah.
It's a little difficult to give us that answer, right?
Mhm.
Because the word unprecedented now has been used ad nauseum at this
Mhm.
point. So yeah, you can't necessarily expect a lawyer to have all the answers. Lawyers at this point, and I can tell you from experience, just say, based on the facts,
Yeah.
this is what I can tell you based on how the law is currently written.
Yeah.
This is what's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Whether or not it will happen in this administration, the way things are being run, it is a crapshoot at this point
Yeah.
of how things are going to actually play out.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why it's important, of course, to know your rights, but to some extent, those rights might be affected or may not exist depending on your status at this point. Like it's kind of crappy, right? But yeah, going back to Ranjani, she had ICE show up at her door. Her roommate spoke with ICE and didn't let them in, luckily. So rule number 1, unless they have a warrant, don't let people
Don't let
in.
them in. That scared her so much that she left, like we said, like she left that night.
Yeah. And then they showed up the next day.
Which was the same night that they went for Mahmoud Khalil.
Yep. And
they also tried to go for her. So she was not picked up that same evening because she already left the place.
She hasn't done anything wrong. She was literally at wrong place, wrong time. But also, it's worth noting that all the other students that were there technically were not doing anything wrong.
Exactly. None of them were doing anything wrong.
I mean, their right to, they were doing nothing wrong in peacefully protesting, assuming that's all they were doing. And again, it's the lawyer in me, right? So assuming that they were just peacefully protesting in favor of human rights, because again, that's what that was. They were not protesting in favor of Hamas.
Yeah.
Point blank, period.
Listen, this point has been made 1,000 times, but I got to say it for my own sanity. These people are just straight up hypocrites. They will go after people who are protesting for the lives of the Palestinian people, but they would let off people who on January 6th stormed the Capitol, threatened to kill appointed officials, try to disrupt a proceeding of Congress, brought a Confederate flag onto the Capitol floor, and Trump comes and pardons every single one of them. These are heroes. Don't bullshit me. We know what's going on.
Right.
This is an absolute white supremacist takeover that we're dealing with.
Yeah. And I mean, the hypocrisy doesn't stop there, right? Like, as a woman, I think it's important to note that, obviously the abortion views of the right are problematic and literally dangerous for women, right? Because women now in certain states are dying left and right because of the changes in abortion laws, where, they're basically being forced into bringing to term and having a child in God knows what kind of circumstances. Yet the same people, the same party who is so in favor of children and we love children and all that stuff, just literally removed all the representation for children of migrants that are here without family, without anyone.
If you want to just show the people, so the Trump administration took away funding for unaccompanied minors who, the government was helping them get representation, because a lot of these times these unaccompanied minors have to represent themselves.
Right.
I don't know if you ever seen the movie Icebox, but it deals a lot with a 10-year-old having to plead his case to an immigration judge. So it says right here in the article, White House reportedly halts funding for legal aid for unaccompanied migrant children. Let's just read a little bit into it.
Yeah. The Trump administration is reported to have cut funding to a legal program that provides representation for unaccompanied immigrant children, 1 month after directing immigration enforcement agents to track down minors who had entered the U.S. without guardians last month. Organizations that collectively receive more than $200 million in federal grants were informed that the contract through the Office of Refugee Resettlement had been partially terminated. The cut affects funding for legal representation and for the recruitment of attorneys to represent immigrant children, but maintains a contract for Know Your Rights, blah, blah, blah. So cool. They'll give a 3-year-old a Know Your Rights presentation. In English, probably not in their native tongue. So that 3-year-old probably has no idea what the hell's happening.
Yeah, Trump make like English the official language of the U.S.
Correct.
The main thing that it does is that it takes away government's like
requirement.
Thank you.
Yeah.
To have to provide
information
in different languages.
Correct.
Yes.
So
I like the way you finished my sentence there. Thank you so much. I
gotcha.
really appreciate that. You let me know my words.
Sorry.
No, I love it. I love it.
Because it looked like you were getting stuck.
No, I know, but I appreciate it. I just
okay.
love how you were actually helping me
okay.
vital. The word. No, that was
Oh,
that was
good.
vital.
Okay.
That was vital.
Bad questions.
But yeah, no,
Yeah.
but this is
So
terrible. Like, what I didn't realize that they were taking away the right for representation.
yeah, so they don't have. So unless the family that they don't have here,
Yeah,
somehow sends money or whatever, like who are they sending it to? The 3-year-old or younger? Because again, people need to remember that, like, when are y'all deciding that a child's life is worth it?
yeah.
Right? When is the general public that's making these decisions? When are these politicians? When is the Republican Party? What is your barometer for this?
Mm-hmm.
What determines to be a child that's worthy of representation, of living their life, of care, of safeguard? You mean to tell me that if you're walking down the street and you happen to see a little Latino kid that's 3 years old, and you would just let it be there? That's 2 years old. What's the age that you need to actually care?
I mean,
Like, this is what's insane to me. You can't claim to care about children's lives when and use that as the excuse for removing rights to women on the abortion front. But then on immigration side, you don't care because they're immigrant children, so they actually don't matter. So what is it?
wow, that's a very solid. We care about the children. I mean, that's the hypocrisy. I mean, that's what they
Right.
say. There's no love like Christian love, as a sarcasm. I might be saying it wrong, but anyways, but essentially saying, like, they act like they care about the children. They act like they care about the people, but
Mhm.
every single step along the way, their policies are contrary to whatever their fake ass moral beliefs.
Yeah, and that's
are
the
being
thing.
disputed.
And if a lot of the morality, for example, and not to throw in like abortion into the mix, because
Like, hey, we throwing it. Everybody under attack. This is something that concerns.
yeah, no, totally, absolutely,
Yeah, concerns a lot of people.
Yeah, no, it was just because like this was meant to be more focused on the constitutional crisis, being from freedom of speech perspective, from immigration perspective, but also again, this topic is an
Women's
issue
right.
too.
We're all getting attacked by different
Absolutely,
ways, and
yeah.
even we did a video of a white lady screaming at a Latina. It's like, "There's Texas, you ain't got no rights." And I was like, "Lady, you are a woman in Texas. You got no rights. Like,
you ain't got
no rights." Like, there's some people who really think that they are okay, but they just
because they're okay now.
They're okay now, man.
that's the
When's that
thing.
gonna come to your
Ooh, Lord.
Hi, I'm Trump's policies coming to get you. Sorry about that. I didn't
sorry
realize
to
it was
your
shocking.
ears, yeah.
Sorry. Won't do that again. See, this is all new equipment that we're working with, so we're figuring it out.
We're figuring it out, y'all.
But but at some point, that knock's gonna come at your door and be like,
Yeah.
"Hey, it's your turn."
Yeah, exactly. And and I've been telling everyone this, by the time it's at your door, it will be too late. And not for nothing, props to Ranjani, because she knew that too, and that's why she was like, "I'm out."
Yo, tell me
Ranjani was
how.
like,
There were actually a few people in the comments like, "Yo, girl, way to go! Don't be martyring yourself.
right,
Get out."
right.
It's my new one woman show called "Got Out." That's from Abbott Elementary, by the way.
God.
but just I have one more that I wanted to look up, and
I was looking up when she called herself a rando.
yes,
Like,
yeah, there was a quote where she goes, and she said herself, it's amazing that this happened to me because I'm just some rando. I
Yeah.
liked a few posts, in support of the Palestinian people online, and she admits like she did step into some protests, to see and to
she didn't
show
lead
support.
anything.
She didn't lead, and the night that happened, she was coming home. So she's basically saying, "Hey, I'm a rando. I did the bare minimum of what it means to support a cause. Be like a few posts, speak about, hey, it's not right what's happening, and come home after a long day of work and get caught up." And that's all she did. And we're gonna finish up soon. I think we should finish up with one. I didn't expect to get into these
Other ones, yeah.
into this kind of conversation, but it's important. Mamadou Tall, if you put in the search, this is Mamadou Tall is a story that came across last night, and I think it's a great place to finish off this episode on. This is a Cornell student who is being threatened by the Trump administration to give up his papers because he filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration. Isn't that coming up? It's Momo, MOMO.
Oh,
Yeah. MOMO. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Edge request.
yep,
Cornell student.
there's the one.
Okay.
Yeah. So Momodo. I kept saying that wrong. We could put that up. for people to see real quick. And if you're listening to this at home, hey, you got to check out the YouTube channel so you can see all the news stories that we're pulling up. This is from The Guardian. ICE requests Cornell student who sued Trump administration to surrender to immigration authorities. This is Momodou Tall. He's a dual citizen of the UK and Gambia, and he is in the US under a student visa.
Mm-hmm.
He's been able to come into the US several times under his visa.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until him and two other Cornell students, they're US citizens, filed this lawsuit last week that Mamadou got an email saying that he has to surrender himself to ICE.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And this is where his lawyers are arguing, and I agree with it, that this almost looks like it's a retaliation to the lawsuit because, let's give a little more context. The lawsuit was actually brought up to bring everything full circle because of Khalil. Because Khalil's arrest.
Well, I think it wasn't just that one arrest. I think there's been several since then.
Well,
but that one's
yeah. The lawyer also explained that Mamadou and the other students felt that this lawsuit against the Trump administration, arguing that the Trump administration is infringing on their freedom of speech because, we saw what happened to Khalil, that he was protesting in defense of the Palestinian people. And because of it, he's now sitting in an ICE facility in Louisiana. So Mamadou and the other, Cornell students were saying, this is wrong. You can't do this to us. And they filed a lawsuit. And a week later, he gets an email saying, you need to self-deport. You need to show up, You need to, not self-deport, You need to show up to an ICE facility.
Well, that's the irony, right? That he and the other students filed this lawsuit to address this exact same issue. And literally the administration is just like, okay, now you're getting wrapped up in the same issue that you're claiming we're doing. They're doing it.
Yeah. And isn't one
in
of the
retaliation to him? They're doing it. So case proven. What? This is
I actually won my case outside of court.
Right, because they're doing it to me now.
Lawyered.
I
won my case outside of court.
Right. I can use my literal exact case to bring it up as evidence of this other, hey, so once this is solved and figured out, hey, as evidence, I introduced exhibit whatever, my own case where the U.S. government went after me shortly after filing this case. Yeah. It's the irony of the situation is so blatant and it's so in your face that it's just
now and this isn't trying to bring down the person, but Mamadou did participate in protest, and he was also I believe suspended for some of the actions and also some of the tweets, because the tweets that he put out, this is what's so his tweets were very in support of the Palestinian people, which is stuff that I've also tweeted out too. It's hey, look, you can't keep people oppressed and then not expect for something to happen. You can't ignore these people for so long and not have them feel what are my options?
But yeah, and this is what this administration is doing though, right? Going back to the concept that they're creating their own narrative that fits their agenda and all that stuff. They're calling Ranjani, they're calling Momodou, they're calling Khalil, they're calling everyone a quote unquote terrorist sympathizer if you speak out in favor of the Palestinian people. Yeah. But at no point is anyone at all, or any of these people, in favor of Hamas, who are the actual terrorists in this case. Yeah. Right, which I don't think anyone is disagreeing with that. What everyone that is being wrapped up in this is in favor of is the saving the lives of innocent people, point blank, period.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that historically there's the discourse of, are they innocent, blah, 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 whatever. But they are. I don't understand how I don't know the history of not in depth enough to opine on it at this point between.
Well, luckily I'm here. No, I'm not. No.
Right. I'm not going to sit here and act like I know the history between Israel and Palestine and all this stuff and whatever. All I know is that there's this one superpower that has all this military base and has caused great destruction into Palestine over the actions of a subset terrorist group. And I'm pretty sure, not to speak for the Palestinian people, but I'm pretty sure they probably wouldn't care if Hamas is taken care of and done, if justice is actually served on this legit terrorist group. Cool. Why are y'all blowing up innocent bodies to try and go after this terrorist group, and then claiming that Americans and visa holders and everyone that is in support of the Palestinian people are the problem, that they're terrorist sympathizers. Palestinians aren't terrorists.
And this is the problem that I've spoken about a bunch of times on my on my page, is that people of color never get to be individuals. We always have to be lumped in with the worst in our communities. Like, yes, there's terrible people in all communities. There are those who commit harm. There are those who want to come into power just to hurt people, but we have to suffer a lot harder for everyone else. Like, all Palestinian people have to answer for the actions of Hamas. Or like, if one immigrant somewhere, I'm talking about immigrant of color, does something, we all have to answer with our lives and ourselves in cages because of this one person's action. White people never have to respond to that. There's white terrorism, there's white supremacy, there are KKK members walking down the street, and like some comedians used to say, yeah, but for white people, that's John. John's a white supremacist. I'm not a white supremacist. And they can disconnect with like, no, that's white supremacist John. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I'm slightly racist Thomas.
Right. So if Palestinians are going around saying like, no, that's Hamas.
That's Hamas. I'm Palestinian.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, but you're saying, like,
I'm like Joe Schmo that is Palestinian.
Yeah. I'm Muhammad. I mean, I'm Khalil. I'm
They're not Khalil. Do we know if he's Palestinian?
Khalil is Palestinian.
Oh, he is Palestinian.
I'm
from people.
I'm Khalil. I'm not Hamas. I'm
Yeah,
Khalil.
yeah.
I'm defending something different. He doesn't get to be Khalil.
Right.
He has to be.
Yeah.
Which
is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is also a caution to everyone, right? If you read on your source of media that this concept of terrorist sympathizer or whatever, don't assume that that's true.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what exactly happened that they're calling this person a terrorist sympathizer?
Yeah.
And if you start asking questions, vital questions, you'll start seeing that they actually don't have answers.
Yeah.
They don't, right? Because the answer is going to be, oh, well, what, Ranjani was in the middle of a protest. Well, did you ask her why she was in the middle of it? She was coming back from a picnic.
Yeah.
Or, Mahmoud Khalil was leading protests and he's also a terrorist sympathizer. Well, what was he actually doing? What was he in favor of? Oh, saving Palestinian lives. Yeah. Oh, okay. What was he actually?
And if you Google him and his words, he has also condemned anti-Semitism.
Anti-Semitism, exactly, explicitly, right? Which is what we saw from that rabbi speech, because that's been confirmed explicitly, right? So like lying about people's positions and what they actually support and are against and all that stuff, like finding out the truth only comes from asking vital questions, right? So that's what we encourage everyone to do. Especially with everything that's going on nowadays. And we need to be sharing information with each other. But before you share it, confirm that it's true.
Yeah.
Right? Before you start reposting the random Instagram or the random TikTok that you saw, recognize that it's a random. Yeah. Right? Unless it's posted by a credible news source that, again, will at some point dive into credibility, maybe have a whole episode on credibility.
I think that'd be great.
But at least been vetted and you checked, is it only that one news source that's saying it? Because if it's true, ideally several news sources are saying the same thing. Just do the work before you start spreading misinformation.
Yeah.
Because if you're wondering how did we get here, it's because of that.
Yeah.
So remember that next time you decide to reshare something without checking the facts.
Absolutely. I guess some vital questions. We're gonna finish with like a vital question segment or something like that. I think vital question for this week is what do we do moving forward? I say, vital question is how do we protect freedom of speech at a time like this? The right is hiding under quote unquote freedom of speech, but really in reality they're trying to silence freedom of speech. They really are.
And I think I also want to encourage U.S. citizens, right?
U.S. citizens, allies.
Right, who are and allies ideally are already doing the work.
Yeah.
But everyone else who thinks that this isn't going to affect them. Like we already saw it with that doctor that was trying to come, or the scientist that was trying to come in from France. Yeah. The French scientist who was trying to come in and was denied entry because customs found content that was against
hateful, quote unquote, hateful messages against Trump. And
that was the reason he was denied entry.
Yeah.
When was the last time you heard of a U.S. president denying someone entry because of the comments they were making. Again, freedom of speech.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the cornerstone of our Constitution and our
Mhm.
rights, and this is why everyone keeps saying we are under a constitutional crisis.
We are.
Not only under that front, but a lot of other issues as well. But like that's one of the main ones. So keep your eyes and ears open and start thinking critically, y'all.
Asking questions, pushing against this administration,
Yeah.
demanding the truth, because right now we're at a point where people are just, especially, you know, in the Democrats, just kind of like letting
Well, there's
steamroll and
unfortunately there's infighting in the Democratic
Yeah.
Party.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We can go on forever.
well, we're on forever, but you know what? That'll be the episode for this week.
Yeah.
Vital question is when we'll be back. Look out for the next episode soon. Don't worry about it.
That's the last vital question. Bear with us. Thanks for
Hey,
listening.
yeah.
Please like, subscribe.
Remember to follow
Follow.
us on TikTok, Instagram. If you haven't already, hit subscribe here on YouTube. Where else, La co-host?
Oh no, I was saying that the handle is at Che Guerrero.
At Che Guerrero
ENG for English content.
and at
at
Che
Che
Guerrero ESP for
For
Espanol content.
Oh, I'm
Hey.
thinking Nueva York.
Espanol. Pa, pa, da.
Alright.
Okay. La co-host, man, don't let the shock and awe get to you this
It's
week.
a lot, y'all. It's a lot.
Don't let it
We're
get to
feeling it, but just take breaks. Go for a run. Go drink a green juice.
Yeah.
Go do whatever it is you need to take the break, but then come back to it, y'all.
Find your happiness. That is actually a
Mhm.
perfect place to end, because we started with the shock and awe.
All right,
and
find
what
your
it-
happiness.
And the way to deal with shock and awe is, remember, you can't do everything.
Mhm.
You have to take breaks. You
Find
have
community.
to find community. Let people who have the energy right now to fight. When they get tired, you tap them in. You're like, you know what? I took a nice little break. I took a
Mhm.
nap. You know, I watched some episodes of Boondocks or something.
Living
Living
single.
single has been our show, and then we'll go take it from there. All right, hey, stay safe, stay
Stay
sane.
safe.
We'll talk to you soon.
Talk soon. Thanks.
Bye.